Monster Farm Line is finally out, and unfortunately there's no English language option. Will there ever be an English language option? I don't know, but what I do know is Monster Rancher. So despite not being able to speak or read the language, I'm here to help you navigate a Japanese-only game because, surprisingly and despite consensus among the biggest nerds on the planet, mobile games can actually be worth playing. And boy howdy is Monster Farm Line worth playing. It is a genuinely fun and compact experience with a satisfying gameplay loop and a ton of personality. I know I sound like an ad, I don't get paid by these people, Koei Tecmo doesn't even know I exist for some reason. You know, if they want to pay me, I'm okay with that though. It does have a ton of weird glitches that I hope get fixed, but you know, for time being it's pretty good. So right off the hop, have you played the Horse Girl game? I haven't because I find the concept deeply embarrassing to even talk about, but if you have, you're in luck. Lion MF is basically the exact same game with monster battles. You go to the shrine and you unlock a monster, then you go through 5 stages of the monster's life, training and battling and going on missions until you run out of weeks and have to fight in a gauntlet of 3 tournaments, after which your run is over. You're given bonuses and other fun stuff, and then you can use the monster as a parent in combination to make your next little dude. Pretty simple. Or at least it would be if it was in English. So let me lay it out for you step by step. If you need help getting the game downloaded, I've also got a video on that. The game will ask you if you want to do the tutorial or not, and I suggest saying yes. Even if you don't really understand what's going on, it'll help out pretty substantially, and you'll get the hang of the flow of the game. After you got your monster, the first thing you'll need to do is choose 2 monsters that mon will inherit stats and abilities from. This functions as kind of a loose analog to classic Monster Rancher combination, and just like in every other Monster Rancher game, combination is the most complicated aspect. I don't really fully understand what does and doesn't make a good combo, but I do understand how to get better stats on your starting mon through this process. Just bear with me a bit, we'll talk about it later. You can choose any monster you've previously raised, or a monster any of your in-game friends have designated as the one they would like to share as a parent monster. Each monster gets inherent bonuses when they fight in a given locale based on their breed, as well as an aptitude rating for each tech range. There's a lot going on. Don't stress too much about it yet. By the time these are actually important aspects of the game to you, you'll have had a little bit of experience and you'll know how to play. Next, you choose a card loadout. Cards are used to customize your run. Every card has a ton of passives that unlock as you collect more duplicates. Each monster in each card has an aura color dictated by its subbreed. I'm not going to list all of them here, but the rule of thumb is that one of the 6 aura colors, green, red, blue, yellow, white, and black, usually matches the color that the subbreed of your monster is. Monol is black, Tiger is blue, Plant is green. Some attacks have auras attached to them as well. There is actually a kind of weakness circle. This means that a red attack will do more damage against a green monster, a blue attack will do more damage against a red monster, white and black seem to do extra damage against each other. That's kind of the feeling I get from it for the most part. These cards can boost the training effects of matching main breed monsters or aura colors, and these tend to be the most common effects, but some increase your chance of getting greats on training, and there's even more unique perks. Each card specializes in one stat type specifically, and you can tell by looking in the top left corner of the card. Stacking lots of the same type will result in tons of passive bonuses for that stat, and it seems like the way to play until you've got a wide variety of cards at your disposal. Just as an aside right now, it seems like life is probably the most powerful stat, so any mon that can focus on life seems to be pretty good. The 7th card type has a little like shaking hands logo, and this is a support card. This doesn't directly affect any of your stats, but what it does do is give you additional events that happen within the game to boost either your stamina or something else. You'll be asked to choose which items you want to start a run with. Any items found within the run can only be used in that run and can't be carried over. For a brand new player, I suggest playing without any items at all on your first run just to get a feel for the game. And finally, you'll be asked how much exposition you want during your events. The second option truncates the events to be as quick and short as possible, which I recommend since you can't really read them anyway. If you want to sit there with a screen translator and check out every single line of text and go for it, you know, who am I to stop you? On the ranch, you have a couple options. You can train, you can battle, you can go on an errantry, you can play, and you can rest. Your monster has a stamina meter at the top of the screen that decreases as you do most of these actions. Certain items can replenish stamina, as can card bonuses. You can sleep to recover a huge amount of stamina, or you can play to increase a smaller amount, with the trade-off of being you will also get a boost to your monster's spoil, which in turn increases their loyalty. Loyalty determines how likely your monster is to listen to you in battle. If you have low loyalty, you can do foolery, which makes you a sitting duck to the opponent. Loyalty is also a key factor in increasing your monster's rank score, with each individual point becoming more and more valuable the closer you are to 100. So it ends up being a pretty important thing to remember. The 3 pages on the right show you all your monster's vitals and allow you to change your monster's name as often as you'd like. Training is the most basic and straightforward way to raise your stats, and it is a consistent source of discipline. The spoiled discipline meter in the corner shows how you are currently raising your monster. Too much to the spoiled side and they may cheat on drills. Too much to the disciplined side and they may get sick, forcing you to waste weeks visiting the hospital. Try to keep the scales balanced through your choice of items and training regimen. As time goes on, it may turn out that like going super hard on discipline or super hard on spoil actually has benefits. I'm not privy to those at the moment, but you know, it is Monster Rancher. There's always going to be more going on. Each drill corresponds to a specific stat. From left to right, we have life, which determines your HP, power, which determines how much damage you do with yellow techs, intelligence, which determines how much damage you do with green techs, Skill increases your hit percent chance, speed lowers your opponent's hit percent chance, and defense lowers incoming damage. You'll see the monsters you picked as cards appear over random drills every week. If you participate in a training drill that has a card, you'll get all the inherent applicable bonuses of that card, increasing the efficacy of the drill, as well as slowly leveling up your bonding with that card. The higher the bonding, the higher the chance you'll trigger an additional special cutscene where you'll gain even more stats given that card's aptitude. Sometimes you're given an option in these cutscenes, and while it's completely dependent on the specific interaction, very often the choice on the left is a big bonus to that card's stat type, and the choice on the right is either a bonus to different stats, or a mix of small bonuses to many stats, or something completely different. Sometimes it even unlocks passive abilities or recovers fatigue. Experimentation and repetition of certain events is the only real way to figure out what you're going to get, but the rule of thumb is the left choice is the safe stat pick, and the choice on the right is something entirely different. As your monster ages, they will get better at raising stats on their own, completely independent of cards, peaking in prime, which is indicated by your little guy being on fire for some reason. This is the time to go all out and make sure you train as much as possible. As your monster becomes fatigued, their chance of failing the drill goes up, indicated by the percentage in this box. Thankfully, it's almost always 0 unless your mon is incredibly tired, but it is something to look out for. Battles are how you progress through the game the quickest. They offer you money and items to help you boost your final score. There are different tiers of tournament like bronze, silver, and gold, and the difficulty of them can differ pretty greatly. You can click on this icon to see the breakdown of all your possible opponents, and compare stats and see if you have a good shot at winning, and this rating on each tournament shows you what the game thinks your likelihood of winning is. It's still Monster Rancher and the AI is still pretty dumb, so usually you can still roll tournaments you're the weakest monster in just by playing well. You'll eventually figure out your personal comfort level with punching above your weight, but if you wait until the end of the video, I'll explain a couple of extremely broken early metagame strategies for taking out most of the game regardless of how bad your stats are. Battles happen just like they do in classic Monster Rancher games. You can move forward and you can move backwards within the arena to get into range of whichever technique you'd like to use. You can build up guts over time and have to spend them to use a tech. Each monster has its own guts regeneration rate and arena movement speed intrinsic to their breed, and this can't actually be increased or decreased through training. So some monsters are good at spamming techs while others tend to get fewer chances to attack. If you're not new to Monster Rancher, you might be kind of surprised at how high the average guts regeneration rate is in this game. It's just incredibly quick for every monster, so you get to attack a little bit more often than you would in, say, Monster Rancher 2. General good Monster Rancher play dictates that you wait until you have a guts surplus over your opponent before you start attacking and try to maintain it at all times, as this will boost your accuracy, evasion, damage, and defense, though not as much as in previous games. These bonuses are known as guts correction and are an integral part to giving you an upper hand in battle. Win or lose, you'll gain items along with some fame which adds to your final rank score, much like loyalty does. After a battle, you'll be given a choice of food to eat to boost your stamina. Each food recovers a different amount of stamina and has different additional effects, such as increasing spoil or discipline and boosting your ability points, which are used to buy passive abilities. They're all pretty good, but some are definitely better than others given the state your monster is currently in. So again, experimentation is key. If you battle multiple weeks in a row, you'll develop battle sickness, which dramatically cuts your monster's stats in the arena. So try to space out your battles to every other week at the most. There's a way to get around this that I'll talk about later, but I have a feeling it's going to be patched out eventually. The ability points you can spend on buying passives are all active in battle specifically. They don't really seem to have any effect on the ranch, but they do affect PvP and they do affect the battles that your monster is in single player. These can be anything from basic Omni boosts to all your stats getting a little bit higher. It can be something like in the last 20 seconds you gain additional skill or power. There's also battle specials just like there is in Monster Rancher 2, like Power and Anger and Fury, though these are very rare and often don't actually show up on any monsters below 3 stars. Each battle win adds to your total winnings, and each time you break a new threshold in total winnings with a monster, you get an Errantry ticket. Errantry is used to get huge stat boosts and acquire new techs. You'll notice each technique has a learn percent beside it. And if you expand the little tech box info here, you'll see 3 additional criteria that need to be met in order to further boost its likelihood of acquisition. The stat bonuses you get from Errantry are determined at least in part by the cards you've chosen for your loadout, but the specifics are still relatively unknown. If you fail on an Errantry, you'll get permanent learn percent boost to that specific tech, so depending on your strategy and how much your stats are being boosted, sometimes it's worth it to pick a low chance tech in hopes they're not going to learn it and just get the stat boosts. As once you've acquired all the learnable techs, you can't actually go on Errantry anymore, so you get no more stat bonuses. Learning techs massively boosts your monster's score, so it's a bit of a gamble wasting all your precious tickets on stat gains if you're trying to make a high rank monster. And that's the main loop. You raise your stats to win battles, you win battles to raise money for Errantry tickets, and you go on Errantry to learn new techs, and then the cycle repeats. The game is broken up into 5 life stages, with the amount of remaining weeks in the given cycle appearing in the top left. The first cycle is 5 weeks and does not let you battle or go to Errantry. Your only option here is to train to get ready for your debut fight. After the debut fight, you enter the next cycle. You'll notice a slight increase in stat gains in this cycle, and you're free to do whatever you want from this point on. Cycle 3 is where your monster reaches their prime. Stat gains in this cycle are even better than the previous two. Cycle 4 is the last one before the grand finale, and you'll see potentially lower gains here than in the previous cycle, but ideally your card bondings are so high they make up the difference and then some. And the final cycle is the IMA Classic Championship, or ICC. This is a series of 3 progressively difficult tournaments broken up by a rest week in between each. Curiously, the ICC tournaments don't actually deplete your stamina, so it's pretty easy to train in between each without any issue. You'll need to win all 3 to get the biggest rank score bonuses possible, and a single loss will end the entire run. Win or lose, that's the end of the monster's run. You'll get some bonus titles at the end that make them more powerful for combination fodder. The first bonus is to a stat, the second is to a locale, and the third is to a specific tech range. It seems to be random how many stars you'll get for each, but it may be possible to influence these outcomes eventually. In combination, these title bonuses carry over to the new monster and are what determine the beginning of life locale, range, and stat bonuses mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Additionally, the parents of the given monster used in combination also have their bonuses counted. You can get about an additional 200 stat points before you even start the game this way, but this is incredibly rare and requires a ton of runs and luck to acquire. So what's all this other shit on the screen? Okay, let's get into it. Here you can go on expeditions. You send a team of monster away for 8 hours and collect resources for upgrading cards. This is the arena. Here you can do PvP once you have a high enough player ranking and can take on daily challenges. I'm not going to get into the details of PvP. It's a bit complicated, but once you've unlocked it, you'll probably be able to figure it out on your own. It's a 5v5 auto battle with a lot going on under the hood. Icon with Joy is how you get started on your next campaign and raise a new monster. I have a feeling new campaigns will eventually be added here. This guy here is your monster and cards menu. Here you can manage the monsters you've unlocked, and this button brings you to the power-up menu where you can spend resources to power them up before you raise them. These are passive abilities your monster can learn over the course of a run. And this is where you boost your monster's star level, raising their maximum stat cap and starting stats. And this is a list of all the monsters you've unlocked. This is a list of all the techs you've permanently unlocked on the monster. Not every monster of a breed has access to every tech at the very beginning of the game. You probably noticed a lot of techs were grayed out when you went on Errantry. By playing many different monsters and acquiring specific techs with them under certain conditions, you can unlock that tech as learnable on Errantry for every other subbreed of that type. Here we can find a list of every monster in the game that you've seen or unlocked. It's essentially your Monster Rancher Pokedex. This last one isn't actually available to click on as of writing the script, but it's got something to do with monster hearts, which are used to upgrade your star levels. Going back a screen, we can check out the card menu. The first icon brings you to the card power-up menu, which you can spend on books and coins to increase the strength of whatever cards you'd like. The second one brings you to your card's loadout page. You can set it here or at the beginning of a run. And the third icon is your card catalog, where you can take a look at all the cards you own. The last icon here lists all the mons you've completed a run with, regardless of how successful. The second icon here lets you sell monsters you don't need anymore for books, which seems like it may be necessary eventually given the current 200 max monster limit. The second icon on the main menu here is the coin shop. You can trade in all different currencies found within the game for items and monster discs here. Lots of this stuff seems brutally overpriced. The economy for gacha games like this is always a bit skewed early on. We'll have to see how things look down the road. The fourth icon on the bottom of the screen is for monster regeneration. Here you can use your line friends or NPCs to unlock 3 free discs per day, though you can only unlock each friend disc one single time. You don't actually need a line account to play this game, but you will get more monsters if you do actually have it signed up. If you join my Discord or the Monster Rancher Discord, there's tons of people who will just add anybody because all they use line for is this game specifically, so their resources are there. This icon here is for keyword reproduction a la Monster Rancher Advance. You type in any word up to 8 characters, and you can get a monster from it. This requires special tickets that seem pretty rare. Final icon is for generating disc stones you've collected through your regular gameplay. Some are set, some are random, but everyone guarantees a monster. And the final icon is for the gacha element of the game. Spend tickets and diamonds to roll for whichever banner you think looks the best. Rolling 10 at a time will always guarantee at least one super rare pull and a monster. You can actually get monsters through rolling less than 10, but it's not guaranteed. So, I would probably suggest waiting until you have 10 at a time, just so you don't get salty about it, So, with all of that out of the way, it's time to talk about the sick, nasty pro tips. First off, if you lose your debut tourney, you'll be put into an even easier tournament. You can keep losing this tournament over and over again every week to tank a run on purpose. It sounds dumb, but it actually nets you a ton of coins needed for upgrading cards and buying items. If you've completely decided that you're just going to tank the run, I suggest beating this tournament and then every single week just entering a tournament, the highest ranked tournament you possibly can, and you'll probably end up with about 6,000 coins at the end of the run. This is probably the fastest real-time method to bankroll your save file and can buy a huge surplus of AP potions to self-perpetuate. The easiest way to get a high rank score is to abuse tournaments early on in life. The best training method seems to be doing tournaments often as possible, and it turns out if you do the auto battle function, your monster doesn't actually suffer from tournament fatigue. You unlock the auto battle function if you've already completed the tournament once, win or lose. So after you've done a couple of runs, it's a pretty easy way to scum the system by just doing auto battles every single week, completely ignoring your stamina and completely ignoring tournament fatigue. You can get a ton of ability points this way, you can get a ton of money and build up your reserve of Errantry tickets, and then after you've got that out of the way, you can kind of play Monster Rancher normally. High loyalty and fame are imperative to a higher rank, so tournaments giving you both of these through bonuses is a no-brainer. Check your training during weeks when you aren't doing tournaments to see if a bunch of cards are lined up on a stat you want to raise, but honestly, otherwise you can sort of neglect training if you're not in Prime and still have access to Errantry. At the very end of the game, try to leave as few ability points as possible on the table to maximize your rank. And if you're having trouble beating Maxim, the Cabala's final boss of the ICC, it turns out there's a guaranteed way to defeat him or just about any other monster in the game, especially if they don't have a tech in slot 4. A few monsters have techs that move them forward from slot 3 or slot 4 to a point-blank state when used. Hare, Suezo, Guazamo, Arrowhead, Mew, and a few others have moves that work really well for this. You can abuse cycling the slot 3 or 4 attack, moving all the way up, use the pushback button to push you back into that attack range over and over again for about a 10-second timer scam every single time you use it. Maxim specifically has no slot 4 tech, so unless he hits you or you do foolery before you get a chance to attack, this basically locks him out of ever being able to hit you. It's super grimy, but honestly, if you miss enough 80% in a row, you won't feel too bad about cheesing the game anymore. Monster Rancher is unfair, so sometimes you gotta be unfair back. And that's about it. That's all the pertinent info you need to know to get started and keep playing Monster Farm Line. If you found this helpful, let me know. If you want to know more, you can join my personal community Discord or the larger Monster Rancher Discord. There's a lot of knowledgeable people willing to help. I'll see you guys in the next Rancher Rundown later this month, where I'll be talking about a cool little sea monster I hold near and dear to my heart.